Put your seatbelts on and get ready for the ride. We're the freaking New York Jets, so we're built for this shit.
Hello, welcome to another episode of In the Trenches with Gang Green. I'm your host, Bubbs. Today is Wednesday, May 28th. Hopefully everybody's having a good day so far today. This is episode 547 of the In the Trenches with Gang Green podcast. I thank you, as always, for joining me. For those tuning in on YouTube, make sure to please like and subscribe. Of course, appreciate all of those tuning in on all the different audio podcast platforms. And today, I want to take a look at 4 free agents that the New York Jets could still sign. Connor Hughes, Jets insider, of course, for SNY, linked a few names to the Jets in a latest mailbag article. So wanted to break down some of those names, if they're realistic, if they fit, and of course, my thoughts on each of these 4 free agents. We will break that down today on the program. As always, though, before we begin, we got to tell you about our podcast partners, starting with our friends over at BetUS, America's favorite online sportsbook. If you want to get in on any of the sports betting action, check out BetUS and use my link in the description of this video to get a 125% sign-up bonus on your first 3 deposits up to $2,000. Also, our friends over at SeatGeek. If you want the hottest tickets in sports or entertainment, check out SeatGeek and use promo code BUBSONSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase and get yourself out to some of the hottest events. And of course, our friends over at Huga House. If you want their wide range of hats, sweatshirts, t-shirts, you name it, Huga House, check them out. Code BUBS for 15% off any purchase and get yourself some awesome Huga House swag. So here we go, episode 547 here on a Wednesday edition of the In the Trenches with Gang Green podcast. Of course, appreciate every single one of you. The support is always awesome and greatly appreciated. So today I wanted to break down 4 free agents that were linked by Connor Hughes to the New York Jets in a recent article. And if I think they're the right fits, if I think they're realistic, we'll break it all down here. So here was the little section from Connor Hughes's article the other day in what was a mailbag article. He said, quote, "The Jets can certainly make a splash with $22 million in cap space. That's more than enough to add a player and keep enough in the cachet to cover players signed to replace those who land on the injured reserve. Receiver is a need opposite Garrett Wilson, but the Jets don't seem overly inclined to address that spot now. They have veterans Tyler Johnson and Josh Reynolds, drafted Arian Smith, and restructured Alan Lazard's contract. It would be a little surprising if they added a notable name, Amari Cooper, Keenan Allen there." And he also went on to say safety could be a spot, though. Julian Blackman and Justin Simmons are both available. The Jets love Andre Sisco. Tony Adams is a little bit of a question mark next to him. He fell out of favor with the upper levels of management a season ago. Now, one quick thing I want to note there, of course, is what he mentioned earlier right away in that article was the cap space for the New York Jets. And that is going to, of course, increase here post June 1 designations. And what makes this all interesting is there is a real chance and a real opportunity for the Jets, if they want to go on a potential summer free agency, summer spending spree. We talked about it yesterday. The Jets were given the term of from ESPN to be the team most likely to go on a summer spending spree, most likely to have a summer free agency, because as currently sitting, $25 million in cap, 16th in the NFL, with the CJ Mosley, Aaron Rodgers contracts after the post-June 1 designations dropping in cap space, they will get up to about $22.8 million more. So they can get upwards to about $47.8 million, which will put them around top 3 in the NFL. So a pretty sizable jump here will be coming for the Jets, which is most important detail in all this, where if they want to go on a spending spree, if they want to, not shop like drunken sailors, that's not what this regime's all about, at least early on here. But if they want to add a veteran at safety or even wide receiver, they will have a lot more flexibility here post June 1 into the summer to do so. And I want to break down the safeties first, because he did mention wide receiver there, but also kind of mention at the same time, not probably very realistic. And I tend to agree with him. I don't necessarily see the Jets going after Amari Cooper. I don't necessarily see them going after Keenan Allen, but out of the two guys, if they would to go after one of them, I think it would be Keenan Allen. But we'll talk about that here in a little bit. What I think Justin Simmons and Julian Blackman are interesting in is he noted there that safety definitely feels like they will add. There's a more realistic chance that they will add at safety. And I think that's pretty clear. We've talked about it a lot. The Jets like their receivers, at least for now, or seem to have more of a belief in their receiving core outside of Garrett Wilson than the fans do and the outside perspective does. But from a safety spot, definitely a potential area for the Jets to add. And the two names are interesting because we'll start here with Justin Simmons. He's got a direct connection with Darren Muji. They were both together in Denver. If the New York Jets are looking for a veteran to what is otherwise a younger safety room, Simmons could potentially be that guy, right? Tony Adams, 26, just mentioned there. Although he did have, the upper management, the bombshell report, Woody didn't want him to play last year, right? Who knows what he brings to the table this year. And then you added Cisco, who's just 25. So if you're looking for a veteran there, he's got the Muji connection from Denver. He spent 8 seasons in Denver with the Broncos, then went to the Falcons last year for a year. So 9 seasons in the league, entering his 10th season. He's 31. He'll be 32 in November. Looking for that veteran, Simmons would be that guy. I feel like we've talked about Justin Simmons so much as an option for the Jets safeties, not even just last year, but it feels like over the last just even 2 to 3 seasons, Justin Simmons' name has been one of those that have popped up every single offseason as a potential landing spot for the Jets, and it has never happened. And my biggest question with Justin Simmons and my biggest concern is very good career, very good consistent safety. But what happened last season is certainly concerning. And to me, I think Julian Blackman, probably the more realistic and potentially better as well option for the Jets, which we'll get to here in a second. When you look at Simmons, very decorated player, 4-time second-team All-Pro, 2-time Pro Bowler. He was a second-team All-Pro in 2019, and in 21, 22, and 23 seasons was all second-team All-Pro. And then his 2 Pro Bowls came in 2020 and 2023. This is a guy that's all around a good safety in his career. Coverage, run defense, tackling. 2022, he was the interceptions co-leader in the NFL with 6, was tied for the league lead there, did a lot of good things. But last season, very concerning numbers. And you start to question, right? Jets have taken the approach of young pieces, even with the Muji connection, even with him being a veteran to potentially add to a younger room. The numbers last year for Simmons were very concerning. 16 games, 62 tackles, 2 picks, 7 passes defended, 2 tackles for loss. To me, that doesn't tell the whole story. We'll get to a little bit more advanced numbers here in a second. But those 62 tackles were the lowest he's had since his rookie season, which was in 2016 when he played 13 games and tallied just 30 tackles in a limited role. So you're talking about a very low number for a player of his caliber. Now, some other numbers to me with Simmons that could raise some concerns and lead you to believe that Blackman to add with Cisco would probably be the smarter and expected, or I should say realistic decision from the Jets perspective is Simmons last year had a 59.9 overall grade, PFF, worst in his career. He had a 53.8 run defense grade, which was the second worst in his career, only better than his rookie season in 2016. He had a 60.8 coverage grade, second worst in his career, only better than 2018. He also had a 44.5 tackling grade, which was the worst in his career, And this might tell the whole story. This tells you a lot. 19.8% missed tackle rate, which was the worst in his career. His career average is 11.3. Last season, 2023 rather, the year prior was 11.8. So he was up about 8% from a missed tackle rate perspective. And he had 16 missed tackles total, which was the most he's ever had in a season. He only averages 8 throughout his entire career, and he had 9 in 2023, so was up 7 from the year prior. A career worst season in many areas for Simmons. The tackling taking a drop was probably one of the most alarming areas, because for the most part in his career, that's been a strength of his. Of course, the coverage as well. You saw a drop-off there in many areas. I would still say, though, the tackling was probably the biggest and most alarming drop-off. Right. Coverage was definitely a stronger point for him. Tackling was not. And this is a Jets team that struggled with tackling. Do you want to take a risk on a guy who is clearly out of his prime, clearly coming off of a season where at the age of 30, north of 30 now, will be 32 halfway through the season? Is that somebody they want to take a risk on, knowing he's probably on the downward? We'll see. But Simmons, again, the back of the playing card, you love a lot of what you see from a perspective of the All-Pros, the Pro Bowls, some of these seasons that he's had in the past, but last year was ugly. And there's no guarantee he's going to be better than that. That just might be who he is at this point in his career, 31 going on 32 years old, where he's going to bounce around a bit now. And I think also, right, if a team truly believed that he had a lot more gas left in the tank, or at least more than what he showed last year, he probably would have been signed already. So the Simmons thing is interesting. The Muji connection, of course, is there, but last year was an alarming season. And I just think from the Jets' perspective, they are probably going to avoid a player like that. Now, Julian Blackman, to me, is much more realistic, and even potentially here, the better option for the Jets, if you're looking for just to continue to add to the youth movement here. Younger option. I'm honestly surprised he's still available. Simmons, not so much, because you always see veteran safeties every year stick around until July into August. But a guy of Julian Blackman's age and a guy of Julian Blackman's caliber who is young and still on the rise, I'm surprised that he has not gone picked up. And in fact, Julian Blackman was a guy that we talked about a little bit on the show, and Jets fans in general were looking at a name to add right when free agency started, right? Blackman, Cisco, right? If they were looking down the young safety route, he was one of those names. So the fact that he's still available here in May is certainly a little bit of a surprise. 26 years old, he'll be 27 in August. So when week 1 comes around the corner, he'll be 27. So you'll be, of course, pairing another younger player here with Cisco. He started at free safety originally in his career, then switched to strong safety in 2023. And looking at the numbers last year, considering what he was dealing with, he had a solid season, and he's on the rise. And he's a young piece with a untapped potential, high ceiling that the Jets could potentially tap into and get more out of. Last year, he tore his rotator cuff in week 1 of the season and battled through and played 16 games. And even playing with the torn rotator cuff, he actually had a pretty productive season. Unfortunately, he has also had a torn Achilles, which he suffered in 2021. So he's had some injuries here in his career. But outside of 2021, he hasn't missed much time. And the torn rotator cuff last year, played through it. 2021, he played 6 games. But other than that, 15, 14, 15, 16. So he's mainly been on the field. I know sometimes the injuries shy people away, but I think when you really look at it, it's not that bad. He really only had that one loss season. And last year in 16 games, played 16 games, had 86 tackles, 3 picks, 4 passes defended, a tackle for loss. Some of the PFF numbers, 69.3 overall grade was a career high. He also had his best season from a coverage standpoint, 73.5 coverage grade. Some areas that he did struggle in. And I think, to me, this more so directly correlates with the injury that he was dealing with. He had a 55.1 run defense grade, which was the lowest in his career. And his tackling grade at 60.3 was kind of for him. Not the best. It wasn't the worst. I think it was like third in his career out of these 5 seasons. Did have a 15.2% missed tackle rate, which was up 8% from the 7.4% missed tackle rate he had in 2023. And he did have the most missed tackles in his career at 15, which was up 7 from 2023, and even more than that in 2022, where he only had 4. And so far in his career, 5 seasons, is about 8 missed tackles a year as he's averaged. To me, though, when you look at Blackman and you look at the tackling stuff, to me, unlike Simmons, where I think it's just at this point, it's an age thing, because even you look at his previous seasons, the tackling has started to drop a little bit, and last year it really dropped. To me, with Blackman, I think last year the tackling stuff more so correlates to the torn rotator cuff, which shoulder injuries and things like that can really damage you from a tackling perspective and damage your level of physicality, right? It's tough. And I think that was a direct cause of that. A healthy Blackman is much better than that. And you saw that in the previous 4 seasons, right? Especially in 2022, only missed 4 tackles. And even 2023, only missed 7 tackles, which is actually below the average amount that he's had in 5 years, which is 8 per season, right? The coverage was actually better. Some of the best coverage we've seen out of Blackman in his career. So you're looking at a guy here that's similar to Cisco, young. He did get a second contract with the Colts. It was a 1-year extension last season. 5 seasons with the Colts. You're looking at a guy here who is kind of still trying and hoping to take that next step as he enters year number 6 and hoping to really break out a bit. Has had flashes, has shown signs, is good, but looking to take that next step. If the Jets believe in that, I certainly think Blackman's a realistic option as another young piece. He fits exactly what the Jets are looking for. Young, cheap, right? Just saw them do that with Cisco. We've said that many times already. So Julian Blackman's certainly an intriguing name as a young option, can potentially come in and hit another level here. Now, as for the receivers, and Hughes did mention in the article, of course, that you're looking at Keenan Allen and Amari Cooper as probably 2 unrealistic options. I agree. I don't think the Jets, if there's a position the Jets are going to add to, I think it's going to be safety. I think it'll probably be, out of these 4 names, I think Blackman's the most realistic. And then it'll probably be Simmons. I just don't see the Jets adding a receiver, at least now. Maybe they do in August. Who knows? But I truly believe that they believe in what's behind Garrett Wilson, and we'll see. I think they have a very high belief in Arian Smith. I do think they think they can find something out of Tyler Johnson. They added Josh Reynolds, one of the only 30-year-olds on this team, right? So, and I do think they still value Lazard. We'll see if he sticks around on the roster. I still think if Rodgers goes to Pittsburgh, Lazard's probably following him there. Contract restructure, I've always said, to me, doesn't guarantee him a spot. It just gives the Jets more flexibility to move on. But whatever. If the Jets would decide a receiver, to me, it'd probably be Keenan Allen if they would to go to the veteran route. And to me, that's also more so what I just prefer. That's probably not even more what I think. It's probably more just what I would rather. If I had the choice of Keenan Allen or Amari Cooper, I'm taking Keenan Allen. I just think Keenan Allen, personally, has a little bit more left in the tank than Cooper. Cooper last year, to me, his season was so bad that I just don't know. And I don't want to say risk it, because it's not like they would give him a lot. It'd be a cheap, probably vet minimum type of contract. But I just think the safe route's honestly Keenan Allen, who even last year, where he's clearly on the downward in his career, still had a productive season as a wide receiver number 2 alongside DJ Moore. Last season, Keenan Allen had played 15 games, 70 receptions, 744 yards, 10.6 yards per reception, and 7 touchdowns. He was a perfect complement alongside DJ Moore. And Keenan Allen proved could be a reliable number 2 option. I personally just think that projects better. 12 seasons, entering 13th year. He's 33 years old. If you're looking for that veteran, I think Keenan Allen's that guy. Much more reliable than Amari Cooper, I think, right now. I just think Amari Cooper last year was so bad. I don't really know if there's any full rebounding from that. Keenan Allen is still a guy who, even in a more of a backseat role last year, still proved he could be a productive and consistent player. Amari Cooper did not. Amari Cooper got traded midseason and was essentially a non-factor when the playoffs came around for Buffalo. That's terrible. And we'll give you some more Amari Cooper numbers here in a second, but Keenan Allen, of course, very decorated receiver as well. In his career, 154 games played, 974 receptions, 11,274 yards, 11.6 yards per reception, 66 touchdowns. He has surpassed 100 receptions 5 times. He has surpassed 1,000 yards 6 times in his 13-year career. Very decorated, of course, receiver. And is, last year I thought put together a solid season as a number 2, and you'd be bringing him in as that type of number 2 next to Garrett Wilson, who'd be an upgrade, of course, over Josh Reynolds. Keenan Allen can give you similar to that stat line, what we just gave you, right? 7 receptions, 744 yards, maybe a little bit less with targets going to Mason Taylor and Breece Hall and things like that. And of course, Garrett Wilson being even a bigger factor than DJ Moore was for Chicago. Then you take that if you're a Jet fan. From the Amari Cooper perspective, right? 11 seasons, entering his 12th. He'll be 31 in June. So when week 1 rolls around, we'll be 31. Last year was so bad, and I know he was dealing with the wrist injury. But 14 games, he had 44 receptions, 547 yards, and just 4 touchdowns. And some of these other numbers are so ugly. In the 11 games that he played with the Bills, including the postseason, he had 3 or fewer receptions in 8 of those 11 games. 13.8% drop rate. And out of 106 qualified receivers last year, he ranked 116 qualified receivers last year. He ranked 106th in ESPN's overall receiver score with a score of 23. I mean, that is just disgusting numbers. Really is. And I know this is a guy that went out there and had 1,250 yards and was 10th in the NFL in 2023. But last year to me was so bad that I'm personally just so much more down on Amari Cooper and would much more prefer to, if you go the veteran route, to bring in somebody like a Keenan Allen. But even in that scenario, and I think this is also what Connor Hughes was alluding to, just the whole idea of bringing in a veteran wide receiver, you look at Cooper, you look at Keenan Allen, are those guys even going to want to come here, right? At this point in their career, especially, Keenan Allen, a guy who is a little bit older than Cooper, 33, right? Is he more of a guy, you're probably thinking these guys would prefer to go to a team that can win now, right? As opposed to a Jets team that is not built right now to win a Super Bowl, So you have to throw that into it as well. But only time will tell. Now, I wanted to close this out here by just kind of putting things into perspective because we've talked about this a lot. The Jets roster ages right now. Tyrod Taylor, 36, Thomas Hennessy, 31, Lazard, Josh Reynolds, Zach Bailey, all at 30 years old. Those are the only 5 players above 30. As we mentioned the other day, the Jets are 5 players of 30 years old. The only team with less players of 30 or older are the Packers. They have 4. So clear youth movement, of course. And they just moved on from Morstead, Zerline, both over 30, replaced them with guys in their 20s. We've talked about it. Just to kind of show you where some of these players would fit in. If Keenan Allen would to sign with the Jets, him at 33 would become the second oldest player on the team, only behind Tyrod Taylor. Justin Simmons would become essentially the third oldest on the team, tied with Thomas Hennessy at 31. And Amari Cooper, who is 30 right now, would be with those group of 30 guys. However, he does turn 31 in June, so very shortly he'll be with Hennessy and Justin Simmons. So in the event they sign any of these guys, they could get up to potentially, 6 players over 30. I doubt they sign both a Simmons and like a Keenan Allen. I doubt that happens. But in the event that would happen, then you're looking at 7 players over 30. If anything, I think they probably probably only address one position. That would be safety. And that would probably be a younger Julian Blackman, let's say, or even or if you are going to go maybe younger Julian Blackman, if Keenan Allen's still out there, let's say, and they do feel they need to improve, then you add Keenan Allen. But I think if anything, you're probably going to see the Jets roster bump up to maybe one more player over 30. Definitely something to keep an eye on. So let me know what you think in the comments section down below. What are your thoughts on all 4 of these players? Justin Simmons, Julian Blackman, Keenan Allen, Amari Cooper. The Simmons connection with Muji certainly, makes your kind of ears perk up a bit of that being something that could happen. But the age and last year's season does not mix with what the Jets are looking for. Julian Blackman more so. And in both of these receivers, I personally think Keenan Allen fits more just because last year was so bad for Amari Cooper. That is probably something the Jets would avoid. Keenan Allen had a solid year last year as a number 2. I could see them being, hey, if he could play that role for us, that's a productive 1-year cheap contract that the Jets can get out of Keenan Allen. So let me know what you think. Your thoughts on those 4 players. Any other free agents you have in mind? Do you think that the New York Jets are going to go on a summer free agency spree and sign any of the guys? Or do you think they're going to stand pat and trust and play and roll the guys that they have on their roster out there right now? Let me know what you think. Appreciate the support as always. Another week of OTAs here coming up, so stay tuned. We'll have coverage on that once the media is back out there. So stay tuned. A lot more content coming your way. We are getting through May. Soon it'll be June. We'll get to mandatory minicamp. And before you know it, we'll be talking about training camp. Cannot wait. Appreciate you all so much. Until next time, JETS. Jets, Jets, Jets.